Welcome to the Every Brain is Different podcast. It is Samantha and Lauren here with you. And today we have a special guest, Yana Clayman. She is a functional medicine health consultant who discovered her true calling through a personal health crisis. At 33, she had unexpected health challenges that led her to explore alternative methodologies, unveiling the transformative power of root cause medicine. This pivotal experience inspired her to transition from traditional healthcare as a PharmD of nearly 20 years to dedicating her expertise to helping children with ADHD and other developmental disorders thrive naturally. Yana's unique approach offers families hope and practical solutions. Her mission is to empower parents and children, challenging predetermined futures and fostering radical health transformations that allow each child to reach their full potential. I love how your mission is to challenge predetermined futures. That is amazing, because I know someone, or actually a lot of people, who are diagnosed and the doctors are like, they'll never do this, they'll never do this, they'll be like this their whole life. And so I love that you are just challenging that and being like, no, there are other things possible. So that's fantastic. But can you tell us a little bit more about how you're involved in the neurodivergent community?
Thanks, Samantha. I honestly, that's one of the things that is my main mission to change that. Because of my own journey, I kind of came into functional medicine and working with neurodiverse kids through my own health crisis and healing journey. And I myself was given a predetermined future. Like you said, when I was 33, I went from being a super healthy person. I thought I was healthy. I had zero diagnoses or health concerns, to my body just breaking down. I wasn't able to get through the day. I was in immense pain. And after doing the whole workup and seeing a ton of people and specialists, I was told that I would be bedridden within 10 years. I was given lots of labels, a very set, predetermined future. And I have two kids. Like my baby wasn't even 2 years old at the time. And so my whole life, my whole reality, everything I'd ever envisioned just came crashing down. And that was really the moment where I was given all these meds, and as a pharmacist, I knew exactly what my life was going to look like, the side effects and everything they had told me. And I don't know, I didn't know what else was out there. I know what came over me, but I just knew there had to be another way. And so I left that office. I said, no, thank you. They were going to just inject me right there with medication. And so I know firsthand what it's like to have a predetermined future. And that's how I found functional medicine. It's almost been 10 years. The reality that was laid before me is not my life. I actually healed within months. Like something that they said was going to be years, I found healing in months. And that's when I went back, I retrained, I became a functional medicine practitioner, and I specialized in pediatrics, ADHD, because these kids are the ones that get labeled all the time. They get told from a really young age, like what their life is going to look like moving forward, mostly the parents. And the only options we're given is medicine, right? Like you take this medication. And as a pharmacist, I know exactly what that means for them. And, you know, when they start at 6, by the time they're 10, they've already tried 3 or 4 medications, changed doses. And for some kids, it's okay and it works. And that's great, because we need to help our kiddos out any way we can. But there's a large percentage of kids for whom it's not working, and parents have nothing else to do and nowhere else to turn, because we're kind of told, okay, medication's not working. Something's wrong with your child, not the medication, because this is supposed to help.
Yeah, I can relate to that so much. I have one kid who medicine works phenomenally. Like he is on a couple different medications and he is fantastic. They work really well for him. I have another kid who medication did not work for him. He tried a few different ones and they just sedated him so much that we thought he was having absent seizures. And so he doesn't take medication, but there's still things going on that I'm like, oh, I just wish there was a pill for that could just help him. And so I know that that's like not the best thing to say, but that's kind of the easy answer. And it's really awesome when that works. But like you said, a lot of kids and a lot of adults, medication does not work for them. And so what are we supposed to do? So yeah, that's where functional medicine comes in, as I understand it. And can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So functional medicine is really it's looking at the whole person. There is no, it's based on a principle of bio individuality, where we are all different. Our biologies are all different. And so what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for someone else. And so we're looking at everything that shapes a person's health: genetics, environment, stress, hormones, gut health. All of these things are involved. And the big question comes in, how does that affect our brain? Well, everything affects our brain. And I often say it's like a tree. The symptoms that we see, being nonverbal or speech delay, hyperactive, lack of focus, like all the different symptoms we see, they're like the leaves of the tree. And that is where medication works. That is where it's designed to have all our drugs. They're at the symptom level. We're trying to cover the symptoms, mask the symptoms, make them go away. And sometimes that works for the duration of time that we're on the medicine. But where functional medicine works is going into the tree, into the roots. What is at the root level? What is the soil like? What are the roots like? Because if the soil is depleted of nutrients, if there's toxins and pesticides and things going on at the root level, we can't have healthy leaves. No matter how much medication you put and address to the leaves, they're going to keep coming up and keep coming back. So functional medicine is addressing the roots to help whatever's going on there. And often there's gut inflammation, neuroinflammation, or bugs, fungus, bacteria, like so many things that could be going on in the body, that once we address that, then we go downstream and those symptoms start to disappear or reduce, which is how, the functional medicine really works. And we're almost not concerned with the symptoms. Of course, we want to help the symptoms if somebody really needs something for focus or to help them along, but it's not the kind of thing where it's, oh, my child struggles with focus and attention. What supplement can we take? It's let's figure out what the root cause is. And I've got to say, 2 kids with exactly the same symptoms will have completely different root causes often. Once we look in the body, I can't just say, oh, it's absolutely gut health or it's absolutely toxins. They could have completely different root causes that we need to work on in their bodies to address the same symptoms that we see on the outside, which is incredible.
Yeah, my son this was a few years ago. He was having some serious issues and nothing was working. And so we went to a functional medicine doctor and she did all these tests and stuff. And she was like, he has mold in his body. And nobody else was able to tell us that. And so I was so grateful to her that she was able to test for that. But what are some of the things that you do to maybe look for the root cause? What are the tests? Because you said that not always a blood test isn't always the answer. And so how do you find the root cause?
Yeah, oh my gosh, Samantha, I love that you did that. It is just so incredible how often mold is missed. And that is the culprit. So it's amazing. I know you do natural therapy as well, so you understand this world, but mold is such a big one that is often missed for children and adults. So it's incredible that you did that for your son. So the tests that I do, they're functional medicine lab tests, and there's some information we can get from blood work, but not much. Where I like to look very often is genetics. That kind of creates a picture of what that we're working with. And we all have kind of genetic vulnerabilities. There's no one gene that says, oh, this is ADHD and this gene is autism or something like that. But when I do testing, we kind of look at all the key areas of the body, the pathways of the body that help the brain and the body function and develop. And so what I often see are patterns in pathways like methylation, inflammation, detoxification. Those are often the systems in the body that have vulnerabilities in the genes. And the incredible part is that we're not saying, oh, these are your genetics, and so you're doomed. Like you have these SNPs and these vulnerabilities. And so now, sorry, like your brain is not going to function properly. Like, no, we actually know that our environment and our diet can change the expression of our genes. So while we may always have that predisposition and that vulnerability, we can affect the way those genes express themselves in our life just by changing our lifestyle, our environment, and our nutrition, which is incredible. So that is one of the tests that I personally love because it, from the get-go, helps me tailor the protocol. So I've developed a balanced brain blueprint, which is a framework that I use when I work with clients. And while it is a blueprint in a sense that we have a process and we have to kind of tackle it step by step in a strategic way, it is fully customized based on what the child is needing. And so this genetic test really helps set the stage of, okay, what are the pathways that are really needing work here for this specific child? And layered on top of that is then when we look at things like mold, like you mentioned, which could be huge, toxins, environmental toxins, and the microbiome. So gut health is so closely linked to our brain health. We know from research the gut and the brain are in constant communication. And so what's going on at our gut level is going to affect our brain 100%. And so one of the tests that I love so much is looking at the microbiome, the kind of the good guys, but also the bad guys, the things that could be overgrown, that could be leaching toxins into the bloodstream because these bacteria create toxins in the body and they cross the blood-brain barrier. They go directly and affect our brain, cause neuroinflammation. And so what we often see as ADHD or autism or even dyslexia and other kind of learning disabilities as they're labeled is actually inflammation, is actually bacteria and fungus overgrowing in the gut, that when we take care of that, suddenly you have a focused child that's well behaved. And they go from working with a 3-year-old, actually, as we started working a little while back. And I mean, when the mom, he described him to me and kind of what she was dealing with, he's like a ticking time bomb, she said. She's like, I don't know what will set him off. Like, he'll be this happy child this 1 minute and some small thing happens. I don't even know what sets him off. And he'll just have a meltdown and a tantrum. And I'm so tired of getting calls from daycare because he misbehaves in class and he's jumping off the walls. And I just don't know what to do. And he's tiny, he's 3 years old. And so we start simple. We start with the key things like nutrition and lifestyle, like I've talked about. And 3 months later, she's, oh, I don't get calls from school anymore. He just goes right in and sits down in circle time and does what he needs to do. And I'm like, okay, she like forgot almost like what the tantrums were, because she's, oh no, he's like so happy and calm. And I'm like, oh my God, we've barely, on a scale of things that you can do in functional medicine, like we didn't even get to the big stuff. Like with just some diet, sleep, and like it's a brand new child. So I often say, is it behavior or is it inflammation? And when in my world, what I see, it's inflammation.
Yeah. And all behavior is communication. I think I say that on every single episode of this podcast. And if your kid is not feeling well, they're not going to have great behavior because their fuse or whatever is very short. I know my son had a headache for 5 months, and during that time I did not know, and his behavior was off the charts. Like, he was so volatile, and I was like, what is going on? Are you going through puberty or what's happening? He had a constant headache. Like, of course he's not going to be acting great because he doesn't feel good. And so, yeah, I can totally see that inflammation being a thing, and then them not acting appropriately or whatever because they don't feel good. And when you don't feel good, you're not going to behave well. So, yeah.
Yeah. When they're young, they're not necessarily communicating with us.
Yeah.
They're just, it manifests in their behavior.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the things, like you mentioned nutrients, nutrition, lifestyle? What are some of the things that parents might think about doing when they're working with a doctor? What can they ask about?
So one of the key things, and I always talk about this, is what we eat, right? We are what we eat and what we absorb. What we absorb is kind of a more nuanced level that you really need to work with a functional medicine practitioner to get down to, are kids absorbing what they're eating? That's kind of step 2. But step 1 is, what are they eating? And we've got so many studies linking food dyes directly to hyperactivity, even in kids without ADHD. So if they're affecting kids that are, let's say, quote unquote, neurotypical, and I don't love to use that word, then they're 100% like affecting the neurodiverse kiddos. So cleaning up the diet, and the easiest way to do that I think, is shopping the perimeter of the store. Like, just try to stay away from the middle aisles because that's where the processed food is. And so fresh produce, fruits, vegetables, meat, fish, poultry. The other thing is ditch soda. I mean, we kind of all know soda is bad for us, but when it comes to neurodiversity specifically, it actually affects the brain so much because soda has phosphoric acid, along with a lot of other foods, but it's kind of notorious for having a lot of it in soda. And it will deplete nutrients like magnesium. Magnesium is essential for brain function, and it's one of the nutrients that's often low in our ADHD kiddos. And we don't know exactly why, but it's certain nutrients, magnesium, iron as well. When we test ADHD kids versus neurotypical kids, they will have lower levels to begin with. And it is a nutrient essential for brain function. And then when the kids, especially once they get to teen years and up, are drinking more and more soda, it's depleting it. And we're getting more and more symptoms with that. So ditching soda, shopping on the perimeter, organic when possible, that's food. The second thing you can do lifestyle-wise is optimizing sleep. Not only do our kiddos need sleep for the obvious reasons we always talk about, but that is the time when the brain goes through its detoxification system. That is when the glymphatic system is active, specifically before midnight. So that hours between 9 and midnight are just gold for sleep, because that's when that system is active and they're detoxing. Their brain is detoxing. So when they are not sleeping well, it is 100% affect their attention, their focus, their behavior, their speech. So optimizing sleep, whichever way you can. Of course, screens are probably one of the biggest hurdles that parents have to overcome nowadays. And having really clear boundaries around screen time is essential. Something that's really simple and overlooked is morning sunlight. Just getting as close as you can to wake up time, getting our kiddos out in the sunshine. Usually we're like just getting prepped for school, grab your bag, grab your lunch, and out the door. Like even 2 minutes in morning light is going to set their circadian rhythm up for kind of going through its rhythm throughout the day and then winding down at night. And that's that signal from the sun early in the morning is going to help them sleep later. And that's something anybody can do, and you can try, and you see the difference if you're consistent, you're going to see it pretty fast.
Yeah.
And then movement. I think that 70%, I think, improvement in focus, attention, on par with drugs, is daily movement. If we can get our kids moving, they're sitting at their desks all day at school. Daily movement, 30 minutes a day, preferably out in the sunshine, is equivalent to medication. I mean, that statistic was mind-boggling to me. I don't know if it was 70%. I have to look that up exactly, but it was on par with medication or better. I'm like, why isn't this the first thing we're trying? Why isn't the prescription like, hey, get your kid out every day moving in the sun. Let's see how that goes for a month before we even consider medication. So optimize sleep, optimize movement, optimize nutrition. Those are the places to start.
Yeah, I love that. Yesterday, I went out in the sun with my son and played two square for 45 minutes, and I felt so good after we did that because I work out, but I usually do it in the morning before it's light, and I do it in my living room. And so, like, just getting out there, and then it did help me focus more because I have ADHD, and usually the afternoon times are horrible for me, but I was able to focus more, and I just felt so good. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to do that. And now we're homeschooling him, so I can do that with him more. I guess I need an excuse to go outside, even though you don't need an excuse. I need an excuse to stop being productive and go outside. But going outside sounds like one of the most productive things you can do. So,
right? Isn't it amazing? Yeah. And as parents, we're always focused on what do we do for our kids? What do we get our kids to do? And we forget about ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
I'm guilty. I'm in my home office all day long, and nothing is stopping me from going outside and getting some 10 minutes of light, but we often overlook that. I don't forget to get my kids to do it, but it's incredible. Same when I'm outside playing or even riding a bike or scooter with them. I'm so much better that whole entire day And I'm like, oh, I gotta do this more often.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so speaking of things to do, what resources would you recommend? I know you have your blueprint that we will put a link to. And do you have any other resources that you recommend, or do you want to talk about that a little bit?
So the Unlocking ADHD guide is something that I put so much time and love into. That's just because there's never enough time to really go through everything in detail. I kind of touch on diet and sleep, and that guide will go more in depth about the things that we're not talking about, as well as the nutrients and vitamins that are the most beneficial for our neurodiverse kids. So check that out. It's really great. My mission is to get parents to understand the options that they have so that when they're thinking about treating their kids, they make the most informed decision possible. It's not about choosing medication or choosing the holistic route. It's about what's best for your child, whatever that is. Because when ADHD goes untreated, when they're young, we are concerned about how they're doing in school and are they making friends? Are they sitting down and paying attention in class and doing their homework? But as they grow, the ramifications are so much bigger. Because they are showing up as best they could, they want to do well and they can't. Every time they set an expectation or a goal, they fall short. It takes a hit on their self-esteem. So then by the time they hit their teens or even earlier now, they develop anxiety and depression. And people with ADHD are more prone to getting into car accidents because of that impulsivity, especially teens when they're starting to drive, risky behavior, and even suicide rates. And it is just so sad, and because it's so preventable. And so I always say you do whatever you need to do for your child. If it's a medication, great, do it. But the medication doesn't negate the need to address their whole body. There's no Adderall deficiency in the body. You know what I mean? And so if the stimulants or whatever drug is working, great, but you still want to address what is going on, because the drugs in themselves also will deplete the nutrients that our kids are needing the most and what their brain is needing the most. And so by looking at what they're needing, you could give them magnesium rich foods, give them iron rich foods. If they need a supplement, they could take that supplement. Omega-3s, which are so important for the brain. And so if they're not eating enough of the wild fish, you will want to supplement that. So you do these things in tandem. It's not like for me about choosing sides. It's about what your kids need to do their best and succeed in life. And so the guide is just one thing that I love to give to parents because they don't know. And that will just explain it so much better than I can in a short amount of time. But other resources, what I mentioned was Environmental Working Group. I love their website, not only for food, where you could get their Dirty Dozen and Clean 15, but also chemicals. Like they have this whole database on chemicals in our personal care products, which is another way that we're getting chemicals in our bodies, in our kids' bodies every single day. Shampoo, body lotion, cleaning products for the house, they all have chemicals that are affecting our kids' brains. And so cleaning that up, you can check the ingredients there. You can find healthier alternatives. So I think that's a great resource just to kind of start the work of cleaning up the environment and nutrition for your kids. Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. As you can see, I could talk about it forever. This was great.
Well, thank you all for listening this week. We really appreciate you. And let us know what you want us to talk about. What are your questions? What are you struggling with? And we'll see you next week.